I'm going to tell you the truth about George Floyd. This whole George Floyd thing, was a complete scam. It's complete propaganda. Now, I'll say what goes without saying, okay? George Floyd, I'm not happy that he died, okay? And I don't think Derek Chauvin's a saint, etc. But I'm just going to tell you the truth, okay? I'm going to tell you what can't really be denied, okay? George Floyd overdosed, and he had a history of drug problems. He overdosed, and he resisted arrest, and then, his heart rate went up, and, because what happens when you're on drugs. I mean, he overdosed in the first place, but also he's in a very stressful situation. And he also resisted arrest. And then he died. That's really what happened. Unfortunate situation, yes. This guy was a repeat offender. I believe he was charged on domestic abuse. Allegedly, I'll say allegedly because I don't exactly recall right now, but I think he was. He's not some saint. And that's really the thing I'm going to attack here. I'm not here to just stomp on his grave and whatnot, but I'm just here to, because really I think what they've done is worse. What they've done is made this guy into some saint martyr. They made statues of him. They had a bunch of funerals. They have a whole section dedicated in Minnesota, I want to say, to him. And it's just a place without any police. It's basically anarchy over there. Can't imagine living there. But what they basically did is what they do all the time. This is really a lesson to be learned here, okay? They take a minuscule event, or an event that can push an agenda, take the event, then they blow it up. Okay? Or they use it, because sometimes, they do use big events for this, but they use it to push their political agenda, to make you feel bad. Because think about what the George Floyd thing led to. It led to the riots, yes, and all this other stuff, but really it led to this Black Lives Matter movement and all the surrounding people who supported it. I think we know at this point Black Lives Matter was a complete scam movement. And it was a really good name for the movement, because if you oppose Black Lives Matter, it just sounds like you're a racist, right? So it's very hard to attack against. But they basically used George Floyd's death. They used him. They completely used him as a pawn. They say, hey, look at this innocent black man who died. And that's the story the media picked up, because the media is a part of this agenda. Okay, this is the agenda to destroy the world. And this is just a small facet of it. The media picked up the agenda, because they're on the same team. And they said, hey, George Floyd died, Chauvin bad. To instill this mindset in you that, hey, cops are bad. The people who arbitrate the law, they're bad. You can already see how that's going to go. And white people are bad. Because remember, they were going over Black Lives Matter and white privilege. That's the stuff they were doing. Now, if you understand the overarching context of all the stuff that occurred, you don't understand that white privilege is a complete psyop to not only instill a victim mindset, but also to change the demographic, if you will. I'll put it like that, because that's a bit of a touchy subject on YouTube. And I don't feel like getting my channel striked. I got my old one striked once for talking about, this thing they wanted to put over your face, that thing that may or may not be dumb. Don't strike me again, YouTube. Being good. But yeah, this thing is just all propaganda. Okay? And all this white privilege, and it's really from the same cloth. How it is really this, there's this white privilege agenda. It's like, hey, white people are really bad, black people are really oppressed. And that's bad for them, because these black people are like, well, instead of realizing, hey, I'm fat and I'm broke because, I don't work at all, and I'm fat because I don't exercise and I don't take care of myself. It's like, well, actually, it's white people's fault. Now, there's plenty of black people that have opposed this mindset, and I commemorate them. But truthfully, a lot of them has fallen for the trick. It's a trick. That's what it is. Because it's kind of like feminists. How feminists, they submit to the government. Because really, that's what they do. They submit to the government instead of a husband that actually loves them. They're told, don't submit to men. Don't submit to men. Get a job, college, all this stuff. They're just submitting to the government. They're submitting to the system instead of a husband that actually loves them. It's the same thing with these people, right? They're submitting to the propaganda. I say people because really white people submit to this as well. Because, oh my God, you remember those people that would just go in front of a black person, go on a knee, and go like, oh my God, do I even need to get into that, bro? So dumb, bro. But okay, I want to make this as productive as possible. Whenever there's an event that's used to push an agenda, okay, this is the George Floyd death was used to push an agenda. And there's gun control is a good example of this as well. event happens, a shooting happens, take all the guns. Always think, is this really a rational response to this? I mean, let's say even if George Floyd, because I hate putting this hypothetical across, because not only was he on drugs, he also resisted arrest, and he had a history of being an offender. He's also a big dude, right? Sure, the last one's out of his control, but you have to take that into account. All right, if you're a big dude, if you're intimidating at all, you have to understand that, hey, I'm this thing, so I need to act accordingly. And you have to work with it, okay? He knows this. He should know this. He probably forgot because he's on drugs. Overdosed on drugs. Meth and fentanyl. Quite the combination. But always look at it rationally. It's like, does it really make sense to riot and just start hating the police? And I wonder how dumb these people that riot, because truthfully, a lot of them use it as an excuse to just steal stuff, right? But think about it. There's actually people who actually went to the riots and protesting. Yeah, bad. Really think about what happened. This is what you need to do. Whenever something like this happens and they're trying to push an agenda, take a step back. It's does it really make sense to riot and, dedicate a lot of my energy and time to opposing something? Let's say even if George Floyd was killed as a result of police misconduct, does it really make sense to do all this stuff? Because one police officer, or you could say three police officers in an area committed misconduct, and some of them will say, hey, it's a history, but really there's a common thing between all these events for the most part. Yes, police do bad things sometimes, obviously, but most of the time, most of these videos you see of police brutality against black people, they're resisting arrest. When you resist arrest, things become very difficult for the police officers. Because remember, things happen like that. All right, we're citizens. We're supposed to submit to police. Now, of course, there's situations where the police are doing actually bad things, but in these cases, what were they trying to do to George Floyd? They were trying to arrest him and put him in a car. That's it. They weren't putting a gun to his head and saying, hey, do this, do that, jump around. They're just trying to arrest him and put him in a car. Now he just makes this big fuss about it, right? And same thing goes for a lot of these other situations. I remember there's someone who was, I forgot his name, but he was, driving a car, right? And there was a police chase, and he pulled over, and I think he had weed. And he didn't want to get caught with it. So, the officer's just trying to, routine thing, nothing crazy has happened. And then, he just drives off. Then there's this big chase, and there's a big standoff, and ends up getting shot. And they're like, wow, police brutality. It's like, hey, he was supposed to submit in the first place. When you resist against police and you make a big song and dance about things, you're really putting them into a situation where they're in danger. And I know they have guns, but who knows? Maybe you have a gun. And I'll just point to this one video. There was this Black Lives Matter, big guy in the movement, and he went over to police training to try and, act like a police officer. And all 3 times, he went through 3 tests, and all 3 times, he ended up, I think he either ended up shooting someone when he shouldn't have, or he ended up getting shot himself. Hypothetically speaking, of course, in the simulations. So it's just to say, this is not an easy job. So when you're doing all this retarded stuff, like resisting, driving off, doing police chases, at that point, what do you really expect? There has to be some level of personal responsibility for it. And of course, I'm not here defending police misconduct. It happens, and I'll point it out if it does happen. But this is all a big scam. Don't fall for the George Floyd propaganda. He's not some martyr. He's not some saint. Okay? These people, instead of submitting to God and Christ, they submit to George Floyd and his death. Like George Floyd, you know how Christians believe Jesus Christ, died and rose from the dead, right? They believe George Floyd died, and it's like the liberal Christians, it's like a myth. It's a spiritual resurrection instead of a physical resurrection. It's kind of how they are. They follow George Floydism. That's their religion. Now, understanding all of this propaganda, understanding the truth about how the world works, this is all part of a bigger movement built by Christian men. Becoming educated, learning, very important. you want to join this movement, where we're going to start winning as Christian men, check the link in the description. Join the Discord, follow me on Instagram, like my post, my Instagram looks better. Subscribe to the channel for future videos. Go to my website, give me your email so I can give you newsletters. And those are my call to actions. See you in the next one.